Predicting. Predictable. Predictions.
Predict.
Predictable. Predictions. Predictable.
Predictive. Predictable.
Predictive Programming, Episode 7. Absolutely colossal guest today.
Yeah, our biggest by far.
Prediction market trader, PMT, is here in the studio. Welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I've watched some of your episodes in the past with Audie. I saw you guys were talking about the combos, parlays I did the other week.
We were talking about you.
Yeah.
About your vibe-coded solutions.
Yeah.
We could just jump in there. Let's do background. Let's get a little background in.
Why don't you tell us, like, non-prediction market, who are you? Really quick.
So my name, I guess, PMT on Twitter. A little bit of background on myself. I'm 26. Before kind of jumping in, and this was literally just 3 weeks to a month ago, full into like prediction markets, kind of the content side, then trading. I was actually a CPA for 5 years. So I worked at a big four firm for a few years, got my CPA. Then I...
Wait, which one?
Also,
If you don't want to say.
PwC. I mean, I already did the P. I mean, but yeah, I worked at PwC. Then I went to a private equity firm, worked in corporate accounting / kind of finance mixed role there. And then, so that's like my background. And just a month ago, quit my job, just moved to New York literally 4 days ago to kind of go all in on prediction markets, content. And
You quit your job. This is your full-time role.
I
Okay.
quit my job like a month ago.
Nice.
Yes.
And you live in New York?
4 days ago, yeah. I'm literally out of a hotel room. If anybody's watched my streams, you know how a hotel room will have like those tiny little corner tables with like two chairs? I have like, I bought a monitor the first day I got here, and then I went to a Best Buy. They had like one of those mics that's for like gaming that like lights up in all these different colors. So I've been using that because all my clothes, everything's stuck in moving pods because I moved from LA, like across the country. So living out of like a suitcase in Nordstrom Rack.
Sickos only on this show.
Yeah.
So you started doing that a month ago, but when did you start doing prediction market trading in earnest?
Right. Yeah. So I started, and this is actually probably gonna be a surprise because I know like prediction markets for everyone, like the last couple months have been like blowing up, especially on Twitter. There's like so many new faces, so many big people popping up in like the prediction market like ecosystem, especially as like Kalshi, Polymarket, all of them are partnering with a lot of these like big creators. I got into prediction markets back in July 2024 in the run-up to the last presidential election. The first wager I ever went into was who would Trump pick as his VP, and I went in on JD Vance. I think I did like $200 on it because I'd been like really into politics at the time. But within like a day of looking on these platforms, I was quickly like, whoa, like these are priced like really inefficiently. Like some of the markets.
Wait, what price did you get?
On JD, I got like 15 cents. So he was kind of an underdog at the time.
Yeah. He was a surprising announcement even right up until the moment it came out.
Why was your logic on JD?
So my logic on JD was like so rudimentary. It was just like I followed politics really closely on like Twitter, like a ton of like big names I would kind of follow. I felt really in touch with like who was gonna get announced. I mean, it wasn't like 100% for me, but I've always, and I'll get into this too, but I've always been super into just like gambling in general. So like I played poker a ton.
Were you winning poker player or recreational poker player?
I was a winning poker player, but I wasn't a big time poker player. Like,
Let's finish the JD
yeah,
thought.
okay,
Then we're gonna
yeah.
get on.
Sorry, I'm going into big, but
You made his eyes go big like dinner plates.
Yeah. But on the JD thing, so I went on JD at 15 cents, and then I sold my shares like 2 days later because I was looking at all these markets. And I would find things that like, traditional things like, in sports, you guys had all the odds jam people for all those like, so traditional like arbitrage strategies, like seeing what was available on these prediction markets where it was like, there would be a market for will Biden drop out of the race? And then there's a market for will Biden be the nominee? Like those are kind of 100% correlated theoretically, right? Like if he drops out, he's not gonna be the nominee, but they trade at like a 5 cent difference. So what my strategy in the beginning, and I have a ton of old videos kind of going back to this, was I would put like $5,000 at a 5 cent, and then eventually the markets would correct. I'd make like $200. But again, I was doing all this for fun on the side, just seeing what I could build it to. And that's kind of how I got my start, was doing like completely very low risk, arbitrage strategies, I guess.
This is top down sports betting. That's what it is.
We call it the top down. Has that phrase ever come up?
No,
Yeah.
just arbitrage. But like arbitrage can be used in so many different ways, because people will use arbitrage in terms that
In sports, we say bottom up would mean you're actually constructing the odds, from the ether, right? I can take non-pricing data and accumulate or can put it all together and come up with some fair value. Whereas bottom down means I don't know how to do any of that, but I'm looking at what's happening in the market, trusting that somebody else has done it and making some conclusions. And then people sometimes categorize different approaches into buckets that way. Or like a similar one that I've seen you do, right, is the like implied derivatives, right? Like you were talking, I think, today about if no inches is trading at this price pregame, then at halftime the probability should have more or less cut in half because half the broadcast is over, right? So if we can infer that the pregame line was roughly efficient, like we know what the halftime line should be.
Exactly.
Those kind of things. Yeah.
I'm very much top down under that context. I am almost never
that's me.
It's funny because I while I've moved here, I've gotten in touch like the last few weeks with like a few people that wanted to like do interview shows for stuff like that. And one of them was like sending questions, and they're like, "What's your thoughts on like the mayoral campaign? Who's gonna win?" And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I would not have any informed, opinion on something.
Sports are so clearly these discrete events in a way that a lot of the PM markets are not, where it's a little hard. It's more like futures, right?
Hey, I was just thinking that. Yeah.
You can't really do CLV on futures as cleanly, and that's the kind of thing that maybe is a little hard. Are there other sources of truth that people are starting to agree around? Like, well, for instance, the kind of thing that might start happening to you is people will say, I played no Hamas at 30 cents. And later on stream, PMT bought it at 31 cents. Ergo, I did a great job because everybody knows he's sharp and a winner. So if I got the same price as him, I must be doing good. Like, are there emerging like benchmarks like that people are starting to point to and say, this is my proof that I'm doing this well? If that question makes sense.
Yeah, that's a funny thing to bring up, and I think like it definitely does bring its own difficulties. Where like, if I'm actually going to be entering trades live, it's like I'm just going to get penny jumped to the max. I mean, the funniest example of this was like I had that clip where I had Powell saying the word pardon, and then he coughed. Yeah, he coughed and said pardon. What was hilarious is I was on stream the night before, basically just talking to people in the chat, researching what we were going to play, and someone in the chat says, Pardon was trading at like 10 cents the night before, or maybe 9 cents. There was like, and when I say 9 cents, I mean you could have bought like 2,000 shares at 10 cents. So like legit, you could gotten filled. And it was trading like that because people think of the word pardon in the sense of Trump pardons. And obviously Powell never talks about Trump, so he's never going to say it. And then someone commented, wait, if Powell sneezes or coughs and says, pardon me, would that count? And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's hilarious. So we started pulling up these past speeches of that Powell would give, and this was all live on stream, and we would basically just look in the YouTube transcripts, find where he said pardon me, and I think in 3 out of 4 of the random ones or something like that I just pulled up, he had said pardon me. And the best part is when they publish official transcripts, which all the sharps are using to price these, they don't include when he coughs and says pardon me, because why are they going to put
that? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
So,
that's beautiful.
Isn't that hilarious? So we could see it in the YouTube transcripts because it's just a YouTube automated thing. And during that stream, I then went back to the order book and it had gone up to 40 cents.
Wait. But how does the rules grade it? Does the rules grade? Because if it's not on the official transcript, is it?
So the rules resolve based on video first.
Got it.
It would have, and we had talked about this too because we were all. But
if you're really worried too, it probably always snaps to 99 cents, and you could sell out. If you're like, it might not be in the official transcript.
Exactly. But going back to like live trading, it was at 9 cents, 10 cents, and we were looking at live. And then once I felt confident enough to enter it. Somebody had bought all the shares up to like 40 cents.
Yeah.
So then I got in at, I don't know, 33 or 35 cents. But like, had I not been streaming and someone pinged me that,
All right. So, also, are you being more of it sounds like you're almost only taking. Are you ever making anything?
I actually would say like I prioritize making for sure more than taking.
I assume because of the fees?
Yeah, the fees, but also a big thing about it, probably even more so than the fees, I would say, is the fact that, in some of these lower liquidity mentions, like there's going to be spreads, especially like as you are farther away from the market. So, or like the event happening. So you kind of have to be a maker to get like build up a big position slowly. And the other thing I would say is like anyone who watches my streams, like please, if I post like a pick or something, be a maker, because sometimes, if it's a low liquidity market and I will say a pick and somebody wants to like, you'll see it jump up, and it's like, if I will get something at 45 cents, that doesn't mean I would get it at like 65 cents, but
Oh my God.
I mean, that's so obvious to like, but
No, it's not obvious to a lot of people. All of those kind
Unfortunately, it's not. All right. I'm going to ask you maybe a condescending question.
Why would you do that?
Because that's just who I am. Why should I follow you? Because you're giving. How can I trust that you're winning? If you're giving all this alpha out, how do I know that you're a good trader?
I would not tell people to follow me. Like I don't want my selling point to be follow me because I'm a great trader, because like there's so many other people that are way better than me that you could follow. I wouldn't even say I'm like a great trader at all. Like I hope that's not my selling point. My selling point that I want to be, and sure, like lately, all that I've been doing is like mostly these mention market streams and stuff like that. I want my content to be fun. I want it to be informative. I also think like in the industry, like naturally there's probably going to be like bad actors. So I try to like I'm never going to sell you anything. And then so let me think, what was the last piece I was going to say? That yeah, I want my stuff to be informative, and I don't want it to just be trading. So my favorite stream that I'm most proud of was the Swifty stream I did, because I don't know if any of you
I saw clips of it. That was good.
That was like my favorite stream ever.
You had a bunch of you had that one, the one guest that was like a huge Swifty too, right? Like
yes, that's the one. Like so to explain the stream, there were like markets on Kalshi for like how many albums will Taylor sell. Like there was just like an exorbitant amount of like Taylor Swift markets, and they had like decent volume. I mean, nothing crazy, but like my whole thesis that I wanted to do was like, I knew someone in real life that was like a huge Swifty fan, also a huge Sabrina Carpenter fan, but B, like he was very much so like, if there's a sharp in music, it was this guy. Granted, he's never been on a prediction market or anything. Like I have talked to like some big actual music sharps who have made like six figures, and then I'll ask him the same question and he'll answer like the same way. Like it's crazy how much for fun this guy knows about Billboard rankings and like album sales. Like it's insane. So I thought it'd be hilarious to bring him on stream, market it as just like, oh, I'm having a Swifty on, and then I'm sure people would comment, be like, oh, you really think you're gonna make money if a Swifty fan on, whatever, like, just kind of playing on that a little bit. And he came on, and obviously he's going to be speaking the sense of like, oh, this is a lock. So it was like super fun because something's 70%. And he went, I want to say, I think it was 10 for 12. Like I made like $3,000 on just tailing all his picks. And what's crazy is I would have made more, but I originally tailed his picks for like album sales. And then everybody was like, no, these are only pure album sales. So in person, it'll never like hit. So then people convinced me to sell. But she blew through all the like this was priced. The thing he told me to trade for album sales was priced at like 15% likelihood, and of course I sold out. But yeah, I love it.
There is an art to having very, very good information from somebody who doesn't really understand probability or trading, and trying to turn it. We've had this before, right? Where like you have some inside source, but as soon as they find out that you're prepared to drop 20 grand on what they're talking about, they get very scared, and they're like, I don't know. And it's like, no, just speak plain English. Let me worry about turning it into a number. And that can be like a sensual dance almost.
I used to work at someone with a very big political background who's in the White House, and I'll ask him political questions, and he'll always give it in 100% or 0% answer. So then, based on how he's responding to me, I have to decipher like what is the true probability.
Yes.
Going back to the streaming aspect, so let's talk about your career then in the future. Do you perceive you're going to make more money and support yourself more through your trading, which you are clearly profitable, or sponsorships and like streaming revenue from media deals, et cetera?
I'd like to know, like, do you see yourself eventually, because I've seen you mess around with vibe coding and building bots, and we'll talk a little bit more about the parlay one in a second, but do you see yourself eventually being an automated market maker, going that ambitious on it? Or do you still feel like right now the content social piece of it is the highest ROI avenue for you?
For me right now, definitely content. That's like my 100% focus. And my thought process there is it's like, I'm going to just like go give it my all 100%, like, 16 hours a day, whatever, nonstop. Because like, I feel like there's so much interesting stuff in like prediction markets. Like it's just such an interesting like niche world. And like having been in it for like the last year and a half and seeing all like just the hilarious stuff that happens with like some of these markets and the big names too that are like all in these discords and whatever. Like I just think like the content aspect is like totally there, and I think long term there's definitely like a big ROI there, and I think it's something that I'm gonna like really enjoy and like have fun with too. I've always wanted to make content, and I enjoy it. So I would say, yeah, I'm definitely gonna go like for now 100% into content, and then if content doesn't work out in the next like 6 months, then I'll know fast, and then it's like I'll go into just trading full time, like try that out for a few months, because maybe that won't work out.
It's
either.
like, well, I guess you see your friend Foster make 300K. Why do you decide that? Why not be like him? And why instead stream and give that? I'm just curious what your thought process was.
Yeah, it's something I definitely like think about a lot, and like I guess like right now my thought process is like I've never, back when I was still trading and like made most of my money, right, I would have like maybe 5-10 hours a week to be able to like trade, and so the idea of like doing it full time for me, I wonder how much ROI there is there between having 60 hours a week available to trade versus just having 10 to 20 hours. I'm not saying it's not there, but like I would, if I mentally want to like stop doing the content, do all this trading, I would kind of push myself to just be like, can't I use my time more efficiently that I have now to like trade more and like make use of those 20 hours, I guess. So, and I feel like now too, I'm in a position where I get to still do content. Obviously that's most of my time right now. But I can still trade, so it's like, I can at least bring in some income from trading. And then, I can also like just see how I'm doing trading. Like if I start finding opportunities that are like definitely like the combos parlays that I was talking about, like that's a huge opportunity that, granted, I don't know a lot about the space. I'd have to learn it more, obviously, but like sounds like a really interesting opportunity. Like, I
mean, the YouTube thing with the pardon was the sickest thing. That's like a real sports betting edge right there. That's like that's the kind of stuff that really makes me excited.
What other kind of data feeds are you? And let me go even more general. I keep like, I was tweeting about this today, or at least to Adi. Like, there is so much low hanging fruit in building the infrastructure and the supporting, selling the proverbial shovels during the gold rush. Like somebody needs to be building all the B2B pieces of this. Oracle, like settlement should be a standalone product that none of the exchanges own, so they don't have to deal with any customer service issues. Like that's just so obvious and will be so hugely successful. But then there's the B2C of like trader tools and creating high quality data feeds or dashboards or whatever. What are you seeing emerge? What are you leveraging? Is there like secret stuff you're using? Is there stuff you've built? Like what's going on there?
So I would say, like, to answer the first question, like I totally agree in this environment, like there is gonna have to be like just advanced trading tools that people are going to start building, especially like as volumes increase more and more and more. And then, you know, if eventually you get like more institutional money on these platforms, potentially long term. But so I definitely agree that there has to be something. What I will say right now is I feel that there isn't really a big, you know, commercially available tool that has necessarily emerged. Like there's obviously things out there that people are using. For me personally, there's literally one tool that I actually pay for, and it's just a tool to get like historical data on transcripts for mention markets. Basically, it just makes it easy to where this person is putting in time every month to consolidate all these transcripts, so I can put it in a simple interface to kind of analyze. So yeah, I'll pay him $200 a month because I'm going to get ROI there. And then outside of that, like most of what I've used is all proprietary tools, and that's just things that have been vibe coded, mostly not by me, mostly by Foster. Like we've kind of, when we were working together, we would just talk about potential edges, finding edges and things. And then, you know, he would build a tool, and it's like unbelievable the things that you could vibe code. That like there was a time where we were just making so much like money that was like very low risk, just like, and I guess I can get into that, you know, of like some of the things that he built. So to get into that, what I would talk about is like, I mentioned like there was a time where I was like one of the top AI, you know, model traders on Kalshi, right? And then again, like people would ask me all these questions like, well, what do you think about this AI model? Like, I really don't know much at all about AI models. So if you want to know like my edge of why we had just built well, I say we, again, this is Foster at the time, built a tool basically to just, LM Arena is what these AI model things resolve on. That's a third-party leaderboard that's based off of users will test a model. We won't know what model they're testing. They'll test it against another model. So they'll give you GPT-5, they'll give you Gemini 2.5. You try them both out. I like this one more. Then they assign an ELO score. And the ranking leaderboard is updated on a completely randomized basis. So it's not like it's every week at this time. It's not like so we basically just had a tool that would just scrape for exactly when the leaderboard's updated. We would just take all the shares to adjust for the new information. And it gets to the point where like new information is unbelievable. Like something might be priced 50-50, but if this new model hits the leaderboard, it should immediately go 90-10. You know, like so that was my strategy, which is like so simple. I'm not going back to like, I'm not a genius guy, right? This is like complete.
This is great because I'm seeing the parallels between this and like, obviously all I care about really is the sports side of things is insane. This is basically the equivalent of like, you get an injury news. Well, if Kevin Durant is now out, that's pretty massive for the Houston Rockets. So let's go bet against them and vice versa. And I know you talked to me about this. What is like the intersection between PM and sports betting been for you? Like, I mean, you know, there's a lot of like terminology that you may not understand. I don't understand from your side and et cetera, et cetera. What's that been like?
I think it's been very funny. I mean, I guess I would speak to it more from like the Twitter side. Like, so definitely I'll see my posts will start getting into like sports gambling Twitter. And then I'm like, oh no, like, you know,
These guys are the worst.
yeah, I get all these like comments that are just like, I'm like, at first I was like, okay, I'll like write a response to some of these. And then I'm like, never doing that again, you know? But I mean, you know, it's funny because now my feed is like a mix of both. And like, I respect certain things about like sports Twitter versus like, obviously sports Twitter probably hates prediction market Twitter with like
But they hate everything. So if you've known them for a while, you'd be like, they're just negative people. You can't take it too personally.
Yeah, but you gotta like a little bit about it because it's like it's negative, but also like they'll complain first, like blunt truth on like everything, just like whether or not it's like they're probably just complaining overblown, but you know what I mean? There's like some weird honesty to that, I guess, even though oftentimes like they'll probably be somewhat wrong on something but the other intersection that's funny is like the terms, which I think is funny because now sports people are on exchanges. So then like the strategies that I'll be doing. Like I had that one video go big and it was like, everybody was like, oh, prediction market people discover past posting, all this stuff. Like, so it's really funny seeing the intersection of like terms there. And then there's terms from prediction market, like bonding that I think Golden Pants
Yep.
Yeah. Like he had a post the other day that was like, I don't think prediction market knows what bonding is, which I thought was like hilarious. Cause I love that term. That's like one of my favorites.
You know what's funny is I said this to Chris. It was like they call it bonding, which is so dangerous because these things can go to zero. You know, it's like picking. Sometimes they use the phrase in sports, picking up pennies in front of the steamroller. Like you can only do it for so long before you get killed. And then I remember like, oh yeah, the reason bonds pay yield is because there also is some risk of default.
Exactly.
I guess they are bonds. I mean, you know what I mean. But like it is a real factor. So I mentioned a week or two ago how I really feel like the mention markets on sports broadcast specifically could be a big opportunity to bridge the gap between sports and new PM markets. And one thing I found so fun is on my side, I sell a lot of touchdown score plays on star running backs, guys who get goal line work, right? Like guys who are 60% to score a touchdown in a game, sell tons of parlays of those guys. Like that's just super popular. And so anytime somebody gets really close to scoring a touchdown but is stopped at the 1 or like just shy of the 1, I'm like, no, first and goal from the 1. It's Kyron Williams. It's, it's Jalen Hurts. It's these guys. Oh, I don't want to see it. And then I was watching some of your streams, and because you're on no inches, you're the exact same way. You're like, please be a touchdown. Please be a touchdown. Oh God, it's first and 1. I can't do first and 1. They're going to say inches. It's like, that is so similar. Like the handicap is extremely similar. Yeah. And I think stuff like that, like the more I bet in pricing some of those, you found like you kind of had to learn about how the rhythm of a football game goes. Yes. And like, well, when do these, like, I bet you've also been looking into, does inches come up a little bit more in the second half than the first half? Yeah. Are they more likely to go for it on fourth down, which is going to bring it up? Like that part, I think, is a way that a lot of these could start to bridge a gap.
Yeah, 100%. And like I talked about this as well, like in a similar vein, because I did some other like podcast some guy had, but I think like you're seeing like right on like Kalshi, for example, like sports volumes are going crazy. And I know a lot of like longtime prediction market users coming from like the Predictive days and all, they're like, man, like it feels like sports are like taking focus. So like some people aren't as like happy with sports, but like overall, I mean, I think like the hope is you have all these new sports users coming in, being able to transition them to other products and other markets. And I think like announcer mention markets that they're doing is like a great tool to potentially do that bridge to where it's like, oh, okay, I'm normally just a sports player, but I can do this on an NFL game. And then they had last weekend like a college game day kickoff, will the field goal hit, which turned out to be a whole rules, like it was funny, but that was like, that's another great market that I think like having sports people, you could potentially convert into mentions in other markets.
Let me give you two scenarios and you tell me which one you think is more likely and which one you'd prefer. One is all of the new market types that we already see on PMs, mention markets, political markets, etc., become more and more popular. The market makers get more and more accurate at them. Therefore, the spreads get tighter. The quantities go up, and basically what we already see now solidifies into new, real, highly liquid categories that trade at very sophisticated levels. The second option is we recognize that the fun is in it being new and unsolved, and the PMs and their users keep inventing new categories of markets quicker than any institution can really figure out how to price them. And there's a constant influx of low liquidity, highly inefficient, messy, new, figuring this out on the fly stuff that always kind of stays in that, like, we're fighting for a few grand. I can't believe this worked for a few months. We were the first ones to do it kind of territory. Where do you see things more likely to go, and where would you prefer things go if it was just going to be one of those two?
in terms of where I see things going, I think it's like a little bit of a mix of both, but I'll give you an answer to not be boring. Like, so I would say,
Thank you. That's why you got content guys, dude. Content guys just say stuff. Yeah.
but I would say like number 2 is most likely, but I would
Number 2 being keep spamming new stuff and keep
spamming
it
new
crazy.
stuff and keeping it crazy. But I would say, you know, the offset of that is that while you'll have all these, like you can look at it now, right? You have thousands of markets, but there's, you know, like if we take out sports, right, there's a few political markets that get a crazy amount of volume. And then you have like all these other markets, some that are doing like pretty small markets. So I think you'll continue to have like all these markets, some of which are like very low liquidity, low volume, but then you'll have a few that are like, you know, actually high volume markets. And then also that's where market makers are going to continue to just add on to, like sports, politics. You know, I think what I love most about prediction markets is markets where you can't find like an external source of like how this should be priced, right? Like having sports on prediction markets, it's like, it's probably easier to market make because you can look at what sports books are giving on these odds versus like prediction markets, like when, you know, Andy Byron had that whole affair, the astronomer CEO had that whole affair. It's like, how the heck would you ever price this? You know what I mean? There's no other place you can get a price for it. Same thing with government shutdown, you know? Like if you try to price this yourself, you're going to get all these media outlets saying, you know, yes, this is Democrats, Republicans, whatever. It's very hard to price. And those are the types of markets I love on prediction markets. And I think those will always kind of exist. And you will always have on the outer tail, like these low liquidity, hard to price markets, maybe without like designated market makers. But there will be like a group, because like if institutional money comes on these platforms, right, they're not going to be trading mention markets, you know, like those are just always.
I think they will, but yeah.
I'll be the negative one here. Henry's always the positive one. I said last week, my fear with mention markets is what I think you're doing is phenomenal. And I thought the opposite. I hope that people follow you, hop on a prediction market, and then come over to the sports side. Okay, not go to sports and then review. But they both can happen to both of us. But my fear is if mention markets blows up, it becomes too riggable. And now, like, hey, if that announcer that you're predicting on, or even like some politician that's giving a speech that you're predicting on can make $50,000, $100,000. Well, maybe they'll start rigging it, and that's when the government gets involved, and we don't want any of that. Do you see that my fear there?
I see your fear, and I guess I would say because like this has kind of come out a bit with like we had the Nobel Prize markets. People were like, was this, you know, insider information is such a thing? Because now it's funny, you have sports Twitter and prediction market Twitter also coming together, and it's like there's a lot of people on prediction market Twitter that are like, yeah, insider information, like we're the truth, we have all the news first. But like if you want these platforms to grow and have like institutional people on these platforms, like nobody's going to market make if you have just a ton of insiders. I mean, it's so
the market
like,
makers have to win.
Yeah. I mean, a little bit. Yeah, pretty
much. They have to win
like,
a little bit.
Yeah. But you know, so I can see a world where like it definitely becomes a higher risk, because right now, if somebody were to say that, like somebody quote tweeted one of my posts today and was like, oh, these markets, they got to get rid of them. And it was like a Trump, I think it was a Trump speech, maybe it was the announcer one. But I'm like, okay, is a guy going to really like risk his whole reputation and maybe get like 5,000?
Right. I mean, we're so far away. Like,
right.
How much could he really win?
Yeah.
Right now.
Exactly.
Not a much. But if you continue to grow, which looks like you are, and you will be, maybe those 3,000 to 5,000 becomes 30,000 to 50,000.
The dildos, the WNBA dildos, are an example, right? Because it's like, how much does it cost to attend a WNBA game? And what is the downside of getting kicked out of the game early versus if it's a big meme, like 5 figures of liquidity? That is now, I mean, it's also a one-off. You know, I don't think you're going to get the federal government involved.
Yeah,
but
I'm very happy that like, and I'm very happy Kalshi didn't list those like markets specifically for like, and I think like outside of even just insiders, like it's kind of influencing them to. And then if you think long term, you want to get integrated with like the NBA or so, like it feels like it's kind of a bad look to.
Everybody's got to sort that out and kind of figure out their priorities.
Exactly, and like, but
it's a delicate act to make conscientious decisions about things like that while also moving full speed ahead at 120 miles per hour at all times,
Right.
which is equally important for just the normalization process of the whole product.
All right. And right now, sports do 90% of volume ish. Where do you see that number being in 5 years from now?
That's a good question. I would say, I think, so 5 years is like way out, but like,
If you want to give 2 years, 3 years,
I mean,
that's fine.
I think a year from now, sports volumes are going to stay really, really high. And I mean, right, you're seeing like combos starting to come out on Kalshi. Like, these are things that are just going to be this unlock that I see more and more users coming onto. So I think a year from now, sports are going to stay. I mean, you'll have some spikes with like midterms, things like that. I will say, like, it seems like there are pushes for like culture markets, all these other ones to start popping up more and more. So I think 1 year out, it'll probably still be a lot of sports, but I think give it a few more years, like eventually it'll start to kind of spread to other markets. And I mean, I think the markets it's going to gravitate towards, though, would probably, in my head, it's like a Fed interest rate market or like a jobs report market, like things that there's actually like a solid use case for like institutional capital to want to hedge things, because that is a totally, I think, true like statement of the fact of how bizarre it is if you're trying to like hedge a presidential election, or you're trying to hedge whatever. It's like, oh, I should short oil stocks, or I don't know, you know.
It's so funny. There was baskets, like Bloomberg built some baskets that if you wanted to hedge when it was Kamala versus Trump, a Trump presidency or Kamala president, you could buy these group of stocks or these group of stocks for Kamala, and it would actually just been cleaner to just predict it on a prediction market.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I think going into like 2028, now that like Kalshi is regulated, you know, obviously like poly market is coming to the US apparently soon.
Well, maybe poly market can use a government shutdown market to figure out when they'll probably be there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, the odds are moving on that one, but yeah, I mean, I just think like going into 2028 for like the election market alone, like volumes to me are going to be like just parabolic. I mean, it was a few billion in this last one, but like just on that point alone, granted, it's also not just going to be like institutional money, but like if this ball keeps rolling and like prediction markets are here to stay a few years from now,
2028 could do 10 billion.
Yeah,
easy.
Like,
yeah.
So that's where I see like the volume coming away from prediction markets. And I think once they also build more tools to like think about ways to like markets like that, like, and I think that's mostly going to be like economic markets, you know, and maybe if there's a world with like something related to stock prices or something like that, like where you're kind of getting into that like option, like,
so I don't understand that argument, because I see all the like crypto bros loving like you can predict the Bitcoin price at this or like that stock price at this, but why? Because you can just do it with options and stocks already, which already are insanely liquid and probably have less fees. Like, explain that to me, because I don't get that.
Yeah, I mean, like, I would say like I don't know how it works in like crypto, if there's like a ton of like I'm not a crypto, but like for like stock prices, like I don't know. I mean, that's a good question of like why not just get a call option or a put or something, but like I just think like with what you can build on prediction markets, like surely there's like something you could make in terms of like reacting to stock price movement that would be beneficial versus just like a standard option. But like, again, options are this fully built out industry with like insane volume. So it's like, it would have to be really good to kind of cut into that. But I couldn't give you like an accurate idea of like, oh, here's a financial instrument they should be, you know, but it's a good point. Like it'd be something they'd have to battle for sure.
All right. We're way over time. PMT. Thank you very much for coming on and joining us. This is awesome.
This has been great.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
And you're in the city now.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll see you again sometime soon.
Yeah.
Or drop by for a stream. We'll crash a stream.
That's what we should do.
Who the hell are these guys? What are they doing on my laptop right now? All right. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.